Peace and blessings to everybody out there. So I wanted to come on and give a message for my Aries, for all of those Rams that are out there. So astrologically, you have some planets that are getting ready to go retrograde in your sign. I want to talk a little bit about them, how they may impact you, and some things that you can do. So anytime a planet goes retrograde, we know the planet doesn't actually go backwards. It looks like it's going backwards from where we are positioned here on Earth, but the planet doesn't actually go backwards. So when a planet goes retrograde, it brings out more of the shadow aspect, because everything has a shadow. We have a shadow. These planets have a shadow side. So when they go retrograde, it tends to bring out more of the shadow side of that particular planet. So the first planet that's going retrograde is Neptune in the sign of Aries. And it's already gone retrograde. It went retrograde on July the 4th, okay? Neptune is a watery planet. It deals with spirituality. It deals with divine love. It deals with self-sabotage. It also deals with illusions, right? So this is a time, Aries, where it's going to be time for you. You're going to be revisiting some things that you think you may have already processed or dealt with. These are going to be things about you and how you may get in your own way in certain aspects. These are going to be things too that could be dealing with spirituality, where you may need to redress and readdress some things in your life. You're going to need to reanalyze your response to situations and things. You want to reanalyze your spiritual principles, your spiritual practices, and your belief systems during this time. There's some things that are going to need to be edited, okay? This is going to be, some things may even need to be cleansed, okay? Because Neptune does deal with water, very watery energy coming from Neptune. So the next planet that's going to go retrograde in the sign of Aries is Saturn. Saturn is going to go retrograde on the 13th. So that's going to be relatively soon. We've got a few more days. Now, Saturn is known as the great Malphallic planet. So Saturn can bring up some difficult things. Like for the next 2.5 years, Aries, Saturn is going to be in your sign. Now, Saturn deals with work. It deals with discipline, it deals with limitation, and it deals with karma, okay? And it also deals with the father. So this is going to be a year where you're going to be challenged for the next 2.5 years, Aries. This is going to be a time where you're going to have to roll up your sleeves and do the work that you agreed to do here. This is also a time where you're going to receive consequences for your actions. So if you've created negative karma for yourself, this is going to be the time where things are going to manifest. This is going to be a time where you may feel restricted in certain areas of your life, right? Because Saturn puts restrictions on us until we learn our lesson, until we do our work. This could also manifest in your work, like your job work, okay? But it could be deeper than that. It could be spiritual work, karmic work, work that your soul agreed to do while it was here. And so when it goes retrograde, Saturn's going to be going back over some things that you didn't finish, back over some things you avoided, okay, pertaining to those areas of life. Now, the second, this one is not necessarily a planet, it's an asteroid, and it's really considered to be a centaur, and that's Chiron. On July the 30th, Chiron is going to start to go retrograde. Now, Chiron is known as the wounded healer, and it deals with deep concealed wounds that we are carrying. This also deals with generational trauma and wounds, things that we inherited from our parents, our grandparents, from our ancestors. Now, Chiron is a child of Saturn. We know the mythology around Chiron, that Chiron was conceived from a nymph named Philaria and Cronus, who's also known as Saturn. And Cronus shapeshifted into a stallion and impregnated Chiron's mother. And he was born half human, half horse, a centaur. And it says that his mother abandoned him on this mountain because of his deformities. So she felt like he was deformed, and she abandoned him on the mountain. And there's different versions of this mythology. Some say Apollo came with the light and taught him, civilized him, taught him archery, taught him healing and medicine and knowledge. Others say that Chiron healed his own inner woundedness by sitting on this mountain. So Chiron deals with wounds, things that are deep. These are the root causes of other things that manifest in our lives. So with all of these more outer planets going retrograde along with Chiron is going to be taking you back over some things that you haven't healed. These things are deeply ingrained within you. They're probably things that were passed down to you through your ancestors. And there may be a focus more on the father's bloodline, being that Saturn is also going to be in Aries going retrograde. And Saturn does deal more with the father, although it does deal with family in general. It kind of has a stronger emphasis on the father energy. So what do you need to do? Well, I would suggest getting some divination done, getting a reading done, maybe looking at your natal chart, seeing what house these planets are in. That'll give you a greater idea on how you're going to be impacted by these planets. Also, this is going to be a time, Aries, lots of healing work, lots of things like Reiki, your yoga, doing your fasting during this time. This is going to be a good time for you to also work on removing obstacles, blockbuster work, a lot of cleansing, especially with Neptune here, to help release what's blocking you. Maybe even some head work, things, because Aries does govern the head. And Chiron is retrograde in Aries, which deals with the mind, our mindset. This may be a time where you need to work on your Ori, work on looking at your mindset and the subconscious beliefs that you hold. So lots of meditation work during this time. A lot of inner work that needs to be done, okay? But it may be better, like I said, to get divination done so that you can hear specifically to you and your situation what type of work you need to be doing, where the focus is going to be, so that you can make it through these transits and use them successfully, because everything has a purpose, and retrograde planets have a purpose in our lives. Although the most challenges that we experience when a planet goes retrograde is when we're fighting the energy, when we're working against the grain, so to speak, when we're swimming against the current. So when you understand what the planet is asking you to do and do those things, when the planet does go direct, you'll find that it's almost like a slingshot being pulled back and then going forward with so much force, because during those retrograde times, you did the necessary inner work that needs to be done, okay? So I'm going to come back later and talk a little bit more about how these retrograde planets are going to be affecting the collective. But I had a message specifically for my Aries, because you have a lot of emphasis on that Aryan energy during these retrogrades. And so I wanted to give you guys a heads up. All right. If you're interested in getting a reading from me or some spiritual work from me, you can find me at www.enchanteddivas.com. Peace.